Hello and welcome, friends. Today we are going to start the second unit in the second module. If you remember that I had said that this particular course is basically divided into two modules. One is advertising management and the other part is the sales management, right? Within sales management, we have already in unit 4 we have talked about the sales theories, and we have also talked about the various steps involved in the sales process. Now in this particular unit we will be covering the sales force management, which is nothing but basically human resource management of the sales organization. So you have got your sales force and how you take care of their recruitment, how you select them, how you train them, how you assign them targets, and how you evaluate their performances, then how do you motivate them. All these things would be covered here. So before we start off, I would like you to brush up all the concepts that you have studied in human resource management, because these concepts would be discussed here as well. Here we would be discussing these concepts with special reference to Salesforce management. So whatever we have discussed in that particular subject, human resource management, we are now going to look at how the various concepts of HRM are being applied in managing your sales force while you are managing your sales force. Please understand, as you rise up in the organization, you have probably been taught about this in the first semester also, that as you move from the bottommost tier of management to the middle management tier, what happens is your HR functions increase, your human resource functions increase, and you need to have more of HR skills, because now as a sales manager you have to recruit people also, you have to train them also, you have to ensure that they are fully motivated, and you have to assign them targets also. So here basically we are talking from the point of view of a middle management level, wherein a sales manager has to manage his sales force, right? And that is why I told you that you need to go through the HR concepts that you have already studied in the third semester, right? So let's start our discussion today. So first of all, let's talk about the objectives of the sales force. What are the various functions that are performed by the sales force, right? So the first objective is prospecting or lead generation. You know about this, we have talked about this in the sales process. You look for prospects. Prospects are those who are likely to buy your product in future. So that is what you look for, prospecting and lead generation. And I have said that to be able to do this particular step well, to be able to prospect well, or to be able to generate leads which may eventually convert into customers, you need to be very, very creative as a salesman. Then the second thing that we have already again talked about is targeting. Now what do we mean by targeting here? Please understand, how much time are you going to allocate to different customers and different prospects. Prospects are those who are about to buy your product, who may buy your product in future, and customers who have already bought from you at least once, right? So how do you divide your time between prospects and customers? Now this is very, very important. If you divide your time in a manner, if you devote too much time to the prospects, what will happen? You may be able to convert them into customers, you may be able to generate sales from them. These would be first time customers. However, in that case, if you somehow are not able to deal with the queries of the existing customers, what will happen? They may switch to some other company, some other product, some other brand. So in that sense, what might happen? You might lose your existing customers, though you are gaining new customers. But you know that this is never a good proposition, because you have been told that acquiring new customers is always going to be costlier than retaining the existing ones. So if the time allocation has been done in a manner to devote too much time to prospects, then it is going to be a problem. Again, if the time allocation has been done to devote a considerable proportion to the existing customers, then what will happen? You as a salesperson would not be able to devote attention to getting new customers, to devote attention to converting your prospects into customers. So you would not be able to expand your sales in that sense. So it is very important for a salesperson to be able to divide his time between the prospects and the customers in a very judicious manner. Then let's talk about communicating. Now this is one more important objective of the sales force, one important function that the salespeople perform. And you would recall from our earlier discussions that I have told you that it's very important for a salesperson to be a good presenter. He should have good presentation skills, because this is how he is going to communicate about the products that he is selling, about the attributes of the products that he is selling, and how his product is much better than the other rival products in the market. So communication is another objective of the sales force. However, please understand, we are not only talking about speaking communication wherein the salesperson is apprising the prospect or the customer about the products that the salesperson's company has. It is also about listening communication, where the salesperson is listening to the requirements of the customer or the prospect, so that he may understand what they require from the product. So it's also about listening communication, and a good salesperson also needs to listen actively. Then the next thing that comes is selling. So now that you have found out the prospects and you have targeted them also, and you have communicated about your company's offerings to them, you need to sell it to them. And we have discussed these steps in the last unit, wherein you approach the prospect or the customer, you make presentation wherein you talk about your products, then you handle the queries and the objections that these may have, that these customers or the prospects may have, and then you are finally closing the sales, in the sense that you are asking for the order, you are showing some signals to the prospect or the customer to make them place the order with you. So this is what we have studied in closing the sales. So this is another important objective of the sales force. So this is something that we've already discussed, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Then servicing. Now this is basically after sales. I hope you remember the 8th step was follow up and maintenance. So here we are basically talking about that aspect of the sales process, wherein once you have got the order from this customer, from the prospect, then you have to ensure that the delivery is on time. You should not be delaying the delivery. The delivery should be as promised. Again, the customer, many times they may not have sufficient amount of money available with them, and they may be interested in buying your product. So what do you do then? You will have to arrange finance for them. So you may have some kind of an understanding. It could be a formal agreement between you and a third party, like a bank or some microfinance agencies, and these agencies would actually fulfill the financing requirements of your customer. Once the customer gets some finance from these banks or the non-banking financial companies, NBFCs, or microfinancing agencies, then he can use that money to buy your product. So it is your duty, because the customer may not want to look for finances on his own. So you'll have to arrange these finances for the customer. Of course, the loan amount would be repaid by the customer, but you have to get this arrangement done for him. You should be able to get him in touch with some bank or some financing agency who would be ready to loan these customers or prospects, right? Again, in case you are selling a technologically complicated product, you also need to provide technical assistance, which means you have to ensure that the product is not only delivered, but it is also installed correctly. So for example, if you are selling a computer system, so you don't only ensure that the computer has been delivered on time, but you also need to ensure that the computer has been installed and it is up and running. So you will be handing over the computer in a running state to the customer, because you cannot expect the customer to do this on his own. And that is why many a time, suppose for example you buy these kind of equipments, consumer durables, from the various websites, they provide you free installation, because naturally if you want to purchase a water heater and if you are purchasing it online, naturally you would also want it to be installed in your house. So that kind of service is being provided for free. So that kind of technical assistance is required from the salesperson's end. And many a times there might be queries from the customers, from the prospects, and these queries also need to be handled promptly. Again, whenever there's a breakdown of the machine, for example you have sold, let's say, a car, or let's say you have sold a refrigerator, it may so happen that the product may break down in between. So whenever there is this kind of a breakdown, you should be responding promptly to the customer when he contacts you and tells you about the breakdown. Because if the product has broken down, naturally the customer may be facing a lot of hardships. So you have to ensure that he doesn't face those hardships, because you are not interested in this one sale only. You are basically interested in getting more sales, getting more orders from him in future. So you actually want him to become your lifetime customer, and that is why you are promptly responding to all his requests for assistance or requests for troubleshooting. So this is another objective of the sales force. Now let's talk about information gathering. Now this is very, very important. You know that the salesperson, actually they interact day in and day out with the customers, with the end customers. So they have the pulse of the market, they have the pulse of the customers, how the customer tastes are changing, what rival companies have come up in the market, what is it that these rival companies are offering, and how their products are having greater value for the customer than the salesperson's own products. So he has full understanding of these developments in the market, and he needs to provide this information to the top management also, and that is what we mean by information gathering. So this salesperson or the sales force would have to communicate whether the customer tastes are changing, whether the customers are looking for a slightly different taste or slightly different design or slightly different color in the product. Are they looking for some other kind of a variant? What is it that the competitors are doing? Because you have to be able to retaliate to the competitor moves, and you have to retaliate well in time. Otherwise your market share would be taken away by your competitors. So these things also, as to what the competitors are doing, what the rivals are planning. Are they planning to come up with a new launch? Are they providing something different, something extra? So all this information has to be fed back to the management, right? Then the market potential also. What is the market potential? How many units can be sold in the market? This kind of information also has to be fed back to the management. So this is another important task for the Salesforce information gathering. Then this is though a rarely done task, but it is again very, very important. Allocating products to customers during shortage. It may so happen that at times there might be a shortage. For example, during the 2020 corona crisis, many factories shut down temporarily, and because of that the supply of items in the market became scarce. Now in such a situation, what is the job of the salesperson? He will have to understand how to allocate these products to customers. Demand is high, supply is low. How do you allocate the low supply? How do you allocate it among the different customers which are there in the market who are demanding the same product? So which of your customer would be getting more number of units, and which one of your customer would be asked to wait for a little while? That is what the salesperson has to take a call on, right? Many times it may so happen that you may decide that okay, the most profitable segment of your customers who are bringing you the highest profit, you allocate the products first to them, and you probably may decide to ask the less profitable customers who are bringing much less profits to you to wait for a while. So again, this is one task that is to be done by the salesperson, right? Then let's talk about sales data analysis. Now this is very, very important. In management, if you are not measuring something, you cannot improve it. If something is not measured, it cannot be improved. This is the dictum in management. So sales data analysis is about what has happened in the past. And does this help me in planning for the future? Now this is what sales data analysis is. For example, it could so happen that as a salesperson, I am not able to acquire new customers, though my existing customers are satisfied with me. They are placing repeat orders with me, but I'm not able to get new customers. Is it because I'm spending too less time with new prospects? Is it because I'm spending too much time with the existing customers? Now, this kind of analysis will give you an idea about how to improve your processes so that you can generate more sales, so that you can bring in more profits for your company. So this analysis is very, very important, and this also is one of the tasks which has to be performed by the sales force. Now, please understand, as a salesperson, this is very, very important. The salesperson should be able to diagnose the problems being faced by the customer. What are the requirements? What are the needs of the customers? He should be able to understand. Many a times the customer may not be able to voice his requirements. He may not be able to express himself well. In that case also, it is for the salesperson to understand what actually the customer wants. For example, when you go to a hotel, you ask for a room. You never say that I want a room with a neat and clean toilet. However, though you have not said this, but you actually mean this also. You actually are looking not just for a room, but you are looking for a room with a neat and clean toilet. So, many a times, the customer may not express himself. He may not be able to express himself. He may not be able to express his requirements. In such cases also, it is for the salespersons to be more understanding of what the customer requires and to assess what is it that the customer or the prospect requires. And not only this, they should try to find the solution to the customer problem. They should not be just selling a product to them. They are basically selling a solution to them. So they should not just look to sell a particular product. For example, if there is a salesperson and he is selling two different products, A and B, and in A, the company earns a higher profit, the margin is higher in A, he would definitely like to sell A instead of B. However, if the customer requires B, then he should have the courage and he should have the honesty to suggest him to buy B only. Rather than looking for your own benefit, as a salesperson, you should look to provide a solution to the problems that the customer is facing, that the prospect is facing, because this will ensure that the customer or the prospect is satisfied, and then he returns again, he places another order, he places repeat orders with you. So you are sacrificing your short-term gains for long-term gains, and that is why this is a very, very rational strategy, right? So this is what are the various tasks which are assigned to the sales force or to the salesperson which are part of that sales force. Now, before moving on to the next session, I would like to apprise you of the performance in the internal assessment exams and the quizzes that we have had over the last few weeks. So this is the overall performance till date. We have had 4 tests. You can have a look here: 25 August, then 16 September, and then 2nd of November, and then 25th of November, right? And these are the marks that you have scored. The maximum marks were 10, 15, 10, 10 respectively, and these are the marks that you have scored. I find that some of the students have stopped attending the tests altogether, and they have not been watching the lecture videos also. Beware, and please be warned also that it may so happen that you may not be able to pass the minimum internal score which has been set for your batch, and then it might be a problem for you. These are the scores, and this is till date the overall score out of a possible of 8, maximum possible of 8. This is the overall score of the students. In the last test that we have had, we have the topper. Vikas Joshi has been the topper, so good performance. And then we have okay performance by 3 more students, and then some of the students have not been able to attend the test. This is the overall marks that you have earned till date out of a maximum of 8, and you can see that Himanshu Joshi and Vikas Joshi are the 2 students who are leading, and then there are some problem cases also. Rashmi Kapdi, Kamal Kapdi 0, Sumit Kumar 1. So these students, they are in a grave danger of not being able to clear this particular course, and this might be very problematic for you, specifically because this is your 5th semester and you don't have sufficient opportunity to make amends, and it may also delay your admission to the PG classes, right? So thank you very much for your time. In the next session that we'll talk about the other aspects which we have not talked about today in Salesforce management. Thank you.